Muhammad Ali, born Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr., is widely recognized as one of the greatest boxers in history, but his legacy extends far beyond the boxing ring. His contributions to civil rights activism and his outspoken stance on social justice made him an influential figure in the 20th century, particularly in the context of the African American struggle for equality and the larger civil rights movement in the United States. Ali used his fame to challenge racial inequality, advocate for African American empowerment, and protest the Vietnam War, all while maintaining a deep sense of pride in his identity as a black man. Muhammad Ali was born in 1942 in Louisville, Kentucky, during a time of pervasive segregation and racism in America. His formative years coincided with the rise of the civil rights movement, which sought to dismantle institutional racism and secure equal rights for African Americans. Despite his success in boxing, Ali was keenly aware of the struggles faced by Black Americans, especially in the context of racial injustice and discrimination. His early life was shaped by the oppressive structures of Jim Crow laws and the everyday reality of segregation. Ali's transformation from a brash young boxer to a powerful civil rights figure began when he converted to Islam in 1964, changing his name to Muhammad Ali. The Nation of Islam, the religious movement with which he aligned, had long espoused a message of Black empowerment and self-determination, as well as an uncompromising stance against racism. Ali found in the Nation of Islam a platform to articulate his rejection of the subjugation of African Americans and an opportunity to take a stand on issues that were deeply personal to him. One of Ali's most significant acts of activism came with his vocal opposition to racial inequality. He was unapologetically proud of his Black identity, something that was rare among African American public figures at the time. He consistently spoke out against the notion of integration, which he saw as a form of subjugation, preferring instead the idea of Black self-sufficiency and independence. In the 1960s, when Ali rose to prominence as a boxer, the nation was embroiled in the civil rights movement. Figures such as Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and Rosa Parks were challenging racial segregation and advocating for the rights of African Americans. Ali, who had rejected his birth name and embraced his new identity as Muhammad Ali, considered himself part of the fight for racial justice. He famously declared, "I don't have to be what you want me to be. I'm free to be what I want." This defiance against societal expectations became a cornerstone of his activism. One of Ali's most iconic statements against racial injustice was his refusal to serve in the Vietnam War. In 1967, when Ali was drafted, he publicly stated, "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong." His refusal to fight in a war that he saw as unjust, especially when African Americans were being sent to die while facing systemic oppression at home, made him a target of national outrage. His decision was grounded in his belief that the war was an imperialistic conflict that had little to do with the well-being of Black people in America. Conscientious objector and the Vietnam War. Ali's stand against the Vietnam War was one of the most significant acts of civil disobedience in the history of American sports. In 1967, he was convicted of draft evasion and sentenced to 5 years in prison, though he was later released on appeal. Ali's refusal to participate in the war made him a symbol of the anti-establishment sentiment of the 1960s and 1970s. His stance was a powerful commentary on the hypocrisy of fighting for freedom abroad while denying it to African Americans at home. The African American community was divided over Ali's decision, with some seeing him as a hero for refusing to fight in a racially unjust war, while others viewed him as a traitor. Nonetheless, Ali's courage to stand by his principles resonated with a generation that was already skeptical of American foreign policy and increasingly engaged in the fight for racial equality. The fallout from his refusal to fight in the war led to a temporary ban from boxing, which significantly disrupted his career but ultimately cemented his status as a social justice icon. Ali's activism did not end with his refusal to serve in the Vietnam War. He continued to use his platform to address issues of race, religion, and justice throughout his life. He was a vocal critic of American foreign policy, particularly in the context of its impact on Black communities and oppressed people worldwide. As a global ambassador for peace and racial equality, Ali traveled the world, meeting with world leaders and engaging in humanitarian efforts. He became a symbol of resistance against both domestic and international oppression. His later years were marked by a more reflective and mature approach to activism. After his retirement from boxing, Ali dedicated much of his time to charity work, focusing on issues such as poverty, healthcare, and education. His advocacy for religious tolerance and his efforts to bridge divides between different communities served as a testament to his evolving understanding of global justice.